All right, let's dive right into this explainer and explore the totally fascinating psychology behind what actually makes someone a hidden genius. We've all heard the legendary stories, right? The classic child prodigies, or the brilliant scientists writing massive complex equations backwards on a glassboard. But what if the things that make you a little bit, well, odd, are actually the absolute clearest indicators of an extraordinary mind? Today, we're breaking down exactly how unconventional behavior is very often a brilliant mask for profound intellectual power. So I want you to think for just a second about your own daily routines. Do you have habits that your friends or family kindly refer to as quirky? Maybe you talk to yourself a little bit too loudly in the car, or maybe your desk looks like a Category 5 hurricane just rolled through. We are always so quick to label these behaviors as flaws or eccentricities that we just have to fix. But as we're going to see, modern psychology completely flips this narrative on its head. Are your weirdest quirks actually signs of brilliance? Let's find out. First step, Section 1. The myth of traditional genius. We all know society absolutely loves traditional intelligence. It's neat, it's easily measurable. We're talking perfect SAT scores, high IQ test results, and a perfectly organized, structured life. But hidden genius, that's characterized by lateral thinking, massive cognitive flexibility, and honestly, a whole lot of unconventional habits. The traditional model demands conformity to prove that you're smart. But the hidden genius model, it shows that true intelligence often refuses to conform at all. Moving on to Section 2. What is hidden genius? Here is the real kicker. Psychology actually validates these quirks. Hidden genius is formally recognized as profound intellectual potential that is masked by eccentric behaviors. This means the brilliance is absolutely there, it's operating at full capacity, but its outward manifestation just doesn't look like your typical straight-A student. It looks messy, it looks strange. Think of it like this. The engine is a Ferrari, but the chassis might look like an old, unpredictable, mismatched concept car. The strange behaviors aren't getting in the way of the genius, they are literally the byproduct of it. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Section 3, unpacking the 7 strange habits. Starting us off with habit number 1, talking to yourself out loud, frequently. So if you ever catch yourself having a full-blown conversation with an empty room, honestly, don't panic. Psychology explains you aren't losing your grip. You're actually using an advanced cognitive driver. See, when a massive volume of thoughts competes for your attention, speaking out loud forces your brain to slow down and process them sequentially. You are literally turning yourself into your very own external soundboard. It organizes complex ideas and filters out all that background distraction, which allows high-level problem solving to happen so much faster. Moving to number 2. And wow, this one is pure vindication for anyone whose workspace looks like a total disaster zone. Thriving in chaos. We've all been told to clean our rooms since we were little kids, but a messy desk is very often driven by a psychological trait called creative chaos. A highly sanitized, perfectly orderly environment, it encourages your brain to think in sanitized, orderly ways. It promotes following the rules. But clutter actually bombards you with unrelated visual stimuli, allowing a genius brain to effortlessly draw these really novel connections between completely random objects. It fosters a level of lateral, out-of-the-box thinking that simply cannot happen in a sterile environment. Habit number 3. Now this one often puts hidden geniuses directly at odds with the typical 9-to-5 world. When we look at the data, there is a massive spike for nocturnal habits, basically being a total night owl. Psychology points out that choosing to stay awake when the rest of the world is fast asleep is actually an evolutionary novelty. Highly intelligent people are way more likely to deviate from our ancestors' daylight-driven routines. And why is that? Because the dead of night offers this amazing, distraction-free vacuum. It provides the prolonged, completely uninterrupted cognitive flow state that a highly active brain intensely craves to do its absolute best work. All right, number 4. Let me ask you a question. Do you ever just find yourself completely zoning out during a meeting, staring at a blank wall, totally lost in your own world? That behavior right there is chronic daydreaming. And while society is super quick to call it laziness or lack of focus, the psychological reasoning behind it is fascinating. When you zone out, your brain engages what is called the default mode network, or DMN. You aren't doing nothing. Your mind is actually highly active in the background. It is incubating ideas, it's processing really complex emotional and social scenarios, and it's running simulations. The hidden genius daydreams because their brain is busy solving problems way below the surface of conscious thought. Coming in at number 5, those sudden, intense, and often totally temporary obsessions.
Think about the logic of going down an obsessive rabbit hole. Say you suddenly spend 14 straight hours researching the history of medieval agriculture or the intricate mechanics of vintage watches. This hyperfixation isn't just some quirky little hobby. It is your brain flexing its immense capacity for accelerated information synthesis. You are rapidly absorbing, categorizing, and mastering highly complex data systems in a super condensed time frame.
Habit number 6 completely changes how you interact, or, choose not to interact with the world around you.
It might just look like social awkwardness on the surface, but seeking extreme solitude is actually a super effective psychological tool. Think about it. Social interaction requires a massive amount of mental energy. You're reading social cues, filtering your responses, managing empathy. For a brain that is already running at 100 miles an hour, this can be incredibly exhausting. Seeking out solitude is simply a protective mechanism to preserve their cognitive bandwidth for their rich internal world and maintain deep, unbroken focus.
And finally, we've hit number 7. Now, this one causes a ton of internal stress, but it's a massive indicator of raw intellectual horsepower. We're talking about chronic overthinking and worrying. When psychology ties all these habits together into a cohesive profile, it makes perfect sense. Overthinking happens because a genius brain is basically a supercomputer, capable of running thousands of what-if scenarios simultaneously. It anticipates every single possible outcome. That feels exactly like anxiety, but really it's just high-level strategic planning running on serious overdrive. All 7 of these habits, from the messy desks to talking to yourself to the overthinking, they paint a clear picture of a brain that operates differently simply because it operates deeper.
Which brings us to our final part. Section 4, recognizing your own potential. When we pull all this together and map these 7 strange habits to broader psychological categories, like cognitive, emotional, and social traits, you can clearly see the big picture. Look at how these habits aren't just isolated weird things you do. They systematically cover almost every aspect of human psychology. If you exhibit these traits, consider this explainer your official permission slip to stop suppressing your true potential. Stop feeling guilty for needing to work at 2 a.m. or for having a wildly cluttered workspace. Your brain requires a very unique environment to perform its magic.
So I have to ask, which of these strange habits have you been hiding? For way too long, we've tried to force extraordinary minds into totally ordinary boxes. If you recognize yourself in any of this today, it is time to stop apologizing for your quirks. They aren't your flaws, they are the exact psychological mechanisms of your hidden genius. Embrace the chaos, keep talking to yourself, and let your brilliance finally show.